Hey, therapist, I'm here to help you build a successful private practice, one that has God at the foundation. After over 10 years of experience building my private practice from scratch, I can recognize what sets up a practice for success or failure. And in today's episode, I share 3 reasons why private practices can fail so that you can counteract that in order to be successful. I hope you enjoy it, and please don't be a stranger. Feel free to connect with me, whether that be sharing a comment below, giving me a review, joining my Facebook group, or connecting with me for private coaching. I'd love to hear from you.
Hey, Christian therapist, are you craving a counseling career that aligns with your faith and actually supports your well being? Welcome to the Prosperous Christian Therapist Podcast. I'm Kimberly Van Hooser, Christian therapist, private practice owner, and business coach for mental health professionals like you. In this podcast, you'll get practical strategies and faith led guidance to help you build a thriving private practice, one that serves your clients well and makes an impact for the kingdom of God. So, what are you waiting for? Grab your notebook and join me for today's episode.
Thanks for listening to the Prosperous Christian Therapist Podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly Van Hooser. I'm the owner of a Christian counseling practice located in Colorado. I'm also a business coach and mentor for Christians who are working in the field of mental health who want to start and build a private practice with God at the foundation. I just know from my own personal experience, being partnered with God in my private practice has really been the root of what's kept me in it for so long and helps me build any sort of success. For me, it's such a huge priority that I am walking out the purpose that God has placed before me. I don't want to be doing this work for my own personal gain or for accolades from others, but I really want to be bringing glory to God. And that's really how I started in private practice over 10 years ago. And I didn't really know what I was doing most of the time. I think I could have benefited so much from having some mentorship in the process. And that's why I felt led about 1 year ago to launch my coaching business to help other believers in the field of mental health who are wanting to be seeking God's voice and seeking his direction and leading in the work that they do as therapists. We have access to so much by being sons and daughters of God. We have full access to the wisdom of the Lord, to his protection, to his provision, to his guidance. And that's why I think it's so important to remember to tap into that. We definitely need more Christians who are in the field of mental health who are able to offer really good quality therapy. And I can help you do that through building a private practice that is founded on your faith. So I'm so glad that you found the podcast. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about doing some mentorship or coaching with me. I'll leave contact information for that in the show notes below. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you 3 reasons why I've seen private practices fail. And the reason why I'm going to share why they fail is so you can get some systems in place now in order to ensure that you'll be successful. Now, as I mentioned, I've been in private practice for over 10 years. And during that time, I've come across many other colleagues and other clinicians who have wanted to have a private practice. Some have been successful and some haven't. And now, over the past year, I've also been coaching clients who are in the process of building a private practice. So I've learned a lot about what sets someone up for success and what sets someone up for failure. And one of the reasons I see why private practices fail, why a clinician who wants a private practice might end up never getting there, or maybe their private practice just kind of fizzles out, is that there's no real sense of urgency to build a private practice. It's more of just a distant dream with, I would really like to do this, but there's not a dire need to get started, to have that motivation to really do what it takes to get their private practice off the ground. This often happens when someone is a little bit too comfortable where they're at. Maybe they have their own steady full time job right now, and starting a private practice means that they start having to fill their evenings or weekends with the work that it takes to run a private practice. Or maybe they're married. They have a comfortable other income stream that they can rely on in order to pay their basic needs. But whatever the reason, they don't really have a sense of urgency to actually do the work that it takes. So even if they launch a private practice, they might not be as motivated to do the networking and marketing, to have a website that really captures their clients. They might not be that motivated to invest financially in the things that will make their business be successful. So after a few months of having their doors open and really not getting into a rhythm, they end up giving up or closing the doors. Or if they've never even started a private practice, they change their mind. Something else fills their life, and it's not always a bad thing to give up on the dream of private practice, but please make sure if this is something that God has put on your heart and he's nudging you to do, that you are obedient to him. So, oftentimes when there's no urgency, there is a lack of motivation. So, what we want to do to counteract that in order to make sure that you're successful is to create a sense of urgency. So, there are several ways that you can do this. For one, I would say make sure that you set a timeline and deadlines for yourself. So, think about where do you want to be 1 year from now? Can you actually launch now or within the next year? And what would that look like? What steps would you need to get there? What are some time related goals that you can set for yourself so you can make sure that you are making progress towards those goals of having your private practice launched within the next year? Break those down into steps. So, what are quarterly goals? What are some monthly goals you can do? But develop a timeline for yourself so it's not just out there in the universe and you're hoping for it to fall into place, because honestly, that's probably not going to happen. Now, you can also create a sense of urgency when there's an actual need to be making a certain amount of income in your private practice. I found that highly motivating myself when I was getting started. I was single at the time, so I didn't have a spouse to rely on any income. And I was living in Los Angeles, which is a very expensive place to live. And honestly, mental health providers are not paid very well. So even though I was fully licensed, a lot of the jobs were just contract positions. Maybe they were paying me $30 an hour and it wasn't guaranteed full time work. The jobs that were full time were paying me less than that per hour, probably, and were very draining and not life giving. So I knew I had to make some drastic changes if I didn't want to be caught up in the world of working full time at draining positions in a way that didn't align with my heart or my values. So I quit my full time job. I had a private practice that I started to build on the side. And then I had the urgency to really grow it a lot faster so I would have the income that I needed. So I'm going to throw that out there as an option. Consider turning in notice at your full time job. Now, make sure that you do this with wisdom. Always consult with the Lord. Don't just say, Kimberly told you on the Prosperous Christian podcast to quit your job. Please consult with God first. He knows best. But if this is something where you're just holding back in fear and you know that the Lord's been nudging you and prompting you, take that risk. Taking risks in God is the safest risk you can ever take. I guarantee it. So, if setting goals for yourself and timelines of in the next 3 months, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, if that's not quite urgent enough, do something a little bit more drastic where you're going to need that income, where you're going to need to have that private practice built. That's going to hold you a lot more accountable for taking the steps that it takes and doing the work that is required to build a strong private practice. Another reason why I see private practices fail is when there's no accountability or sense of community. I'm sure you've heard it said before that private practice can feel very isolating because you don't have coworkers. So if you're building this business on your own and you really feel like you're the only person it really impacts whether or not you launch it, it can be super easy to drop the ball. But first of all, I'd like to point out it doesn't impact just you. If this is something that God has purposed for you and put on your heart, it's because you are meant to impact other people. So the longer you're sitting on this dream, you're actually holding back, you're preventing others from having their breakthrough. And that can have so many ripple effects if you really think about it. It's going to blow your mind. So, private practice, whether or not you launch it, does not just impact you. You're not the only one who's not benefiting from it if you don't do it. There's so many people it could have just an infinite impact on the world and the future. So I want you to think about that and take time to pray over that with the Lord. If He's calling you into this, He's going to give you what you need to launch it. But it is really important to build some relationships that can help hold you accountable with this or to build a sense of community. So think about where you can have a strong community that's going to support you in this or where you can develop some accountability. There's several ways that you could do this. One could be joining a small business or entrepreneur group. It doesn't even have to be specifically for therapists. And honestly, I'd probably recommend not just doing something that's just for networking purposes. Networking would probably happen as a result. But when you're meeting together as a group with the purpose of let's set goals for ourselves and hold each other accountable for the goals that we want to meet, that's really going to help. I know for myself, I've come into contact with so many Christian business owners, with entrepreneurs, and that's just because that's a personal interest of mine. I haven't even really been looking that hard. So I'm sure that if it's something that you're needing, that God's going to provide an opportunity for you once you start looking for it. Another thing you can do is to get a mentor or a coach. So find someone who has done what you want to do before, have them teach you and instruct you in their ways. I am available to help mentor you if that's something you're interested in. I love helping others who have a heart for private practice and who also really desire to invite God into their whole process. I love working with people like that. So feel free to reach out to me if you don't know of a mentor or coach in your area. Also, I just encourage you to be vulnerable and let others know what you're hoping for or working on. So that can even just be with your friends. When you let people know this is my desire, I really want to run a business or launch my own private practice in the next year. Hopefully, they'll be checking in on you. It's going to create more opportunities for conversation. And then we also do need to be vulnerable sometimes in asking for people to check in with us or asking for prayer from our church or from others who can be supporting us with that. Because that just shows it's something that we're wanting. And then we're inviting in the power of God too through our friends and colleagues' prayers. But get yourself involved in community, set up some accountability for yourself. There's so much research that shows the power of accountability. You're not meant to do this alone, so don't try to do it on your own. All right, the third reason I'm going to share today about why I see private practices fail is when there is no knowledge. When we don't know how to do something, it's really easy just to not take steps forward because we feel confused, we feel lost, we feel scared. We don't know the next step. It feels too unfamiliar or uncomfortable. I even see that in trying new foods or new recipes. I like to stick with the familiar and the easy. When there's something that's new that I've never done before, I tend to shy away from that until I actually make the effort to sit down to download a recipe to figure out what ingredients I need to buy and how to actually cook the meal. Once I've done it, then it's so much easier. But that can happen with private practice too. When we lack knowledge, it just feels too hard. So, the way to counteract that is to learn what you need to do and to get really specific about the steps that it takes to have what it is that you want. So, this could start out just being as simple as Googling what you need to start a business in your city. I also think it's a great idea to reach out to colleagues, to other professionals who have a private practice that kind of matches what it is that you're thinking you want. Talk to them, connect with them, ask them how they did it. You're listening to my podcast. Hopefully, that's a great start as well, too, where I'm teaching you tips about what to do. The thing is, we need to start going after the wisdom and knowledge that we want if we want it to actually take place. I'm in the middle of leading my first group coaching experience called Practice with Purpose, where I'm walking clinicians through the different steps that it takes to start and grow their private practice so that it's sustainable. And they're benefiting so much, not just from having instruction, but from having that community support of others who are kind of in the same boat as them. So there are definitely resources out there for you to gain the knowledge that you need in order to run the private practice of your dreams that God has put on your heart. There's online courses, there's mentoring groups like the one that I offer. So just take some time and put in the work to find out the specific steps. Get as specific as possible. I think it's so important and so beneficial to take time to write down what steps we need to take in order to accomplish our goals, because oftentimes it's just kind of bouncing around in our heads and we forget and we're not thinking practically of what's the next step that I need to take. But if you take out a sheet of paper and write down your steps, you have it to refer back to. It forces you to put it into language what you actually need to do in order to be successful. So, just to recap, the three reasons why I see private practices fail is when there's no sense of urgency or need, when there's no accountability or community, and when there's no knowledge. So, in order to counteract that, you want to create for yourself a sense of urgency. So, that could be setting some really good timeline goals or deadlines for yourself, or it could be a little bit more drastic, turning in notice at your job. So, there's more of a need or more time to focus on getting your private practice up and running. Get yourself plugged into community and find some accountability. So it's not just feeling like it's only impacting you, whether you do it or don't do it. And remember that God has given you a purpose, that if He's putting private practice on your heart, He has a purpose for that. You are actually called to show up in that space so you can make an impact. So don't let that scare you, but let it motivate you to find community and some accountability so you can actually fulfill your purpose. Lastly, you want to find the knowledge that you lack right now in how to start or grow your private practice. So do a little bit of research, start with some Google, take an online course, reach out to me for coaching and support. There's an endless way for you to get access to the knowledge that you need in order to walk out your dreams. Whenever I get scared about doing something, I often think that if other people have done it, that means I can too. So just be encouraged by looking around at the countless clinicians who are in private practice. You might just be thinking of ones who have tried and maybe not been as successful or had a hard time. But trust me, there are so many people out there. There are so many therapists who are running private practice, who are doing well at it and enjoying it. So look for those people, look for those testimonies, and let yourself be encouraged. So, real fast before I jump off here, I did want to share about the coaching services that I offer. That is fairly affordable. I'm offering a la carte coaching services right now. So, you don't have to invest thousands of dollars in some high ticket program. You can just book a clarity call with me. And all that is a 45-minute coaching session where I meet you exactly where you're at. I help you uncover what it is that's keeping you stuck and figure out what the next steps are for your private practice. We can develop a step by step plan. You can purchase additional coaching sessions after that, but there is no requirement that you do that. I really just want to make myself available to people who are needing that help and needing that push to get them from a place of confusion to clarity. So if that resonates with you, please feel free to visit the show notes below where you can book your session or find out more information. I'm so glad that you're here listening. Feel free to share this episode with colleagues if you think it would be helpful for them. And I'd love to hear any feedback that you might have. Feel free to reach out. Thank you for joining me today. I've got to go jump on a therapy session here. Blessings to you and all the work you're doing as therapists. You're truly making an impact. And I feel like you need to know you're just getting started. God has so much in store for you. If you found value in today's episode, would you leave a written review on Apple Podcasts? It helps other faith-led clinicians like you find the show. And don't forget to join my free Facebook community, Start and Grow Your Private Practice as a Christian Therapist, where you'll join other clinicians for encouragement, accountability, and free tips and support. See you there.